Today we're going to learn how to use a slide rule. And one of the cool things about a slide rule, and keep this in mind when we're going through how this works, is that the log of A plus the log of B is equal to A times B. So we'll see how that formula works when we're working on a slide rule. So we'll start with multiplication. So we want to multiply two numbers. We got to keep in mind that there's something on here called a scale. All these different lines with numbers on them represent scales. The one that we're going to pay attention to for multiplication is the C scale, which we see right there, and down here, which is the D scale. So if we want to multiply two numbers, and let's start with an easy one that we all know, like 2 times 3. We slide the C scale over to D, over the 2, and then we find on the C scale the 3, and that's where it ends up, and that gives us our result, 6. So 2 times 3 is 6. Let's try it with another number. Let's try it with 3 times 3. So 3, we slide this over to the C scale, and we get 3, and that equals 9. Now, if it doesn't fit, we have to go backwards. So if we want to take a number, for example, if we want to take the number 9 and multiply it by 4, so we take the 9, put it over on our C scale at 9. So let me slide that over. So we put the C scale at the end of it, which is 9. Slide it over to the 4. Now that number, you're going to have to look a little close. That number on our D scale is 3.5 plus 1, and if you count those all, there's 10 of those lines. So that number is 36. What number we would think it was is 3.6, but the one thing that you have to be able to figure out on your own when working on a slide rule is the decimal, where the decimal goes. So we know that 9 times 4 is not 3.6, it is 36. Okay? So that's how you do multiplication. Now let's look at addition. Addition is division. Division is pretty cool. What you do is you take the two numbers you want to divide and think of this as a fraction. So let's take an easy one. Let's go 2 divided by 4. So we slide the C scale to over to the 4 on the D, and that's what our fraction looks like. And if we want our answer, we go to the right. We go to the bottom and we see the answer is 5, or 0.5, or 1/2. The really cool thing is that if we want to find the inverse of that number, 4 over 2, we don't have to do anything. We just slide over to the other side. And we see that that number works out to be 2. So it's pretty helpful. Let's take another one that might be a little more difficult. Let's take 3 over 4. So we slide this over. So we put our C scale, 3 over the 4. That's what our fraction looks like right there. And now we go to the end, and we see at the end as that is 75. But we know that that's a fraction less than 1. We know that it's 0.75 and not 75. That's where you have to know where the decimal points are. If we want the inverse of that, if we want 4 over 3, we slide it over to here, and we see that that number, first of all, is 1, 3, and it's not on the 3, it's over 3 little dashes, so it's 1.333. And indeed, that's what, if you take your calculator, that's what the inverse, or 4